Hello, my friends. My name is Silas Crawford, and after decades of watching gardeners feed vegetables with everything from fireplace ashes to fermented fish, I learned one lesson that matters more than any recipe. A fertilizer becomes useful only when it matches a real need. The internet calls these 7 magic fertilizers, and used correctly, they can build soil, recycle household materials, support leafy growth, and deliver specific minerals. Used blindly, the same 7 can produce burned roots, excessive leaves, fewer fruits, damaged seedlings, or soil so alkaline that nutrients become harder to absorb. So today I am opening the entire toolbox, beginning with slow soil builders and ending with a calcium concentrate made from eggshells and vinegar. I will show you what each material actually supplies, how to make or apply it, and where it does not belong. Do not pour all 7 around the same tomato and expect 7 times the harvest. They solve different problems at different stages. A soil test should come before adding calcium, magnesium, potassium, phosphorus, lime, or wood ash because yellow leaves and weak growth can have several causes. Most vegetables perform well around a soil pH of 6 to 7, though individual crops differ, and pH controls how available many nutrients become. Nitrogen encourages leaves and stems, but too much can delay flowers and fruit on tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, and eggplants. Phosphorus and potassium move relatively little through soil, while nitrogen moves more readily and can wash below roots. Homemade materials also vary, so no honest gardener can give your compost, fermented plant juice, or fish concentrate an exact nutrient analysis without laboratory testing. The order matters because soil builders belong before specialized concentrates, and a diagnosis belongs before both. Otherwise, every success becomes coincidence and every failure becomes ingredient added without understanding the first. Before we begin with number 7, subscribe to Silas Crawford's Farmstead if you want practical, old-fashioned methods explained with measurements, limits, and the truth about when they work. I want your garden growing because you understood the soil, not because you gambled on a miracle. And tell me in the comments which vegetable gives you the most trouble. Your answer may reveal whether nutrition is even the real problem. Number 7 is finished homemade compost, the foundation I would choose before any concentrated liquid. Compost is not strong fertilizer. It is decomposed organic matter that improves structure, infiltration, water storage, biological activity, and gradual nutrient release. Depending on its ingredients, finished compost may contain roughly 0.5% to 3% nitrogen. But that range is too broad to plan an entire feeding program. A hungry vegetable bed can still need another nutrient source after compost is applied. Begin with 2 categories. Browns supply carbon, shredded dry leaves, torn uncoated cardboard, shredded non-glossy paper, seed-free straw, and small amounts of untreated sawdust. Greens bring more nitrogen, fruit and vegetable scraps, untreated grass clippings, healthy garden plants, and moderate coffee grounds. Aim for roughly 2 to 3 parts brown material for every 1 part green material by volume. That practical recipe approaches a carbon to nitrogen balance near 25 to 1 or 30 to 1. Chop materials so organisms have more surface to attack, but do not puree them into an airless paste. A pile close to 3 feet wide, 3 feet deep, and 3 feet high has enough mass to retain heat. That is about 90 centimeters in every direction. Add water until a squeezed handful behaves like a wrung sponge, evenly moist but not streaming. Air is equally important. Turn the pile when it cools after active heating, becomes compacted, or develops an unpleasant odor. A working pile may reach approximately 130 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 54 to 71 degrees Celsius. If it climbs excessively, turn it to release heat and restore oxygen. Ammonia, sulfur, or rotten smells mean the material is immature, too wet, overloaded with greens, or becoming anaerobic. Add dry browns and aerate instead of hiding the odor beneath more scraps. Leave out meat, fish fat, dairy, pet feces, treated wood, coal ash, trash, and diseased plants that your system cannot safely process. Compost is ready only when it is cool, dark, crumbly, earthy smelling, and the original ingredients are mostly unrecognizable. Have you ever opened a pile that smelled like rich forest soil? That moment is a better maturity test than counting a fixed number of weeks because weather, particle size, moisture, and turning change the schedule. For a new in-ground bed, spread 3 to 4 inches, about 7.5 to 10 centimeters, and incorporate it through the upper 8 to 12 inches, roughly 20 to 30 centimeters. In an established bed, use a much thinner annual layer, approximately 1/4 inch to 1 inch, preferably before planting or as a light surface dressing. In a raised bed, compost should generally occupy no more than about 1/4 of the total mix, combined with mineral soil and other suitable components. Never fill the whole bed with pure compost and assume darker means better. Excess compost can accumulate phosphorus and soluble salts, damage water quality, and create nutrient imbalance. Manure-based and mushroom compost can be particularly salty for seeds and young transplants. Solid, mature compost remains more predictable than homemade compost tea, which should not be sold as a pesticide or a magical replacement for the material that built the soil. Number 6 is vermicompost, often called worm castings. This is the dark mixture of worm excrement and decomposed bedding created by red wigglers, Eisenia fetida. Do not dig deep garden earthworms from the yard and expect them to thrive in a bin. Red wigglers naturally live near the surface in rich organic debris. Give them an opaque, ventilated container with drainage, protected from direct sun. Prepare 4 to 6 inches of bedding, around 10 to 15 centimeters, using 2 or 3 materials such as shredded, non-glossy paper, cardboard, partly decomposed leaves, straw, or coconut coir. Moisten it like a wrung sponge. A useful moisture range is roughly 75 to 85%, while a comfortable temperature is around 55 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit or 13 to 25 degrees Celsius. Excessive heat can kill the colony. Begin with approximately 1/4 to 1/2 pound of food per pound of worms each week. That is about 115 to 225 grams of scraps for every 450 grams of worms. Increase only after previous food disappears. Cut scraps to roughly 1/2 inch to 1 inch, bury them beneath bedding, or cover them with 2 inches of dry material to discourage flies and odor. Feed fruit and vegetable scraps, coffee grounds and filters, staple-free tea bags, and tiny amounts of moistened bread or cereal. Pulverized eggshell can provide grit. Approximately 1/2 cup every 2 months is enough for a 14-gallon bin. Avoid meat, fish, bones, fat, dairy, oils, dog or cat waste, large quantities of citrus or onion, and fresh green grass that can heat dangerously. After roughly 3 to 6 months, finished castings resemble crumbled chocolate cake and smell fresh and earthy. Use up to about 20 to 25% of a container mix. Outdoors, apply a 1 to 2 inch layer around plants, about 2 1/2 to 5 centimeters, while leaving the stem clear. At transplanting, blend a modest amount through the planting zone soil instead of placing tender roots in a pure pocket. The dark drain liquid beneath a worm bin is not the same product. It may become anaerobic and has no standardized composition, so I prefer the solid castings. Seeds from tomatoes, cucumbers, and squash may survive because worm bins never reach hot compost temperatures. Bad odor means too much food, poor drainage, or too little air. Number 5 costs almost nothing. Herbicide-free grass clippings. They gradually recycle nitrogen and potassium, reduce evaporation, moderate surface temperature, suppress some weeds, and return organic matter. But the phrase herbicide-free is not optional. Clippings from lawns treated with persistent broadleaf weed killers can deform or kill tomatoes, beans, peas, and other sensitive vegetables. Do not use grass-bearing mature weed seeds, aggressive rhizomes, or obvious disease. Let fresh clippings wilt or partially dry, then begin with a layer only 1 to 2 inches thick, about 2 1/2 to 5 centimeters. If you want a total mulch depth of 2 to 4 inches, build it gradually after each layer shrinks. A heavy mat of wet grass compacts, excludes oxygen, turns slimy, and smells rotten. Keep several inches open around every stem. This mulch works well around established tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, corn, and brassicas, particularly in hot or sandy soil that loses water quickly. And it also serves as a nitrogen-rich green inside compost. Never bury a large mass of fresh grass against seeds or roots, and skip unpredictable grass tea, which would help your garden more right now, additional feeding, or steadier moisture. A well-managed clipping mulch can influence both, but water conservation may be its greatest visible benefit. Number 4 is clean wood ash, and this is where restraint becomes critical. Fire removes nitrogen and much of the sulfur, but ash retains potassium, calcium, magnesium, and smaller mineral quantities. Its carbonates and oxides also act like lime, raising soil pH. That makes ash useful only when soil is acidic and testing supports more potassium, calcium, or liming. It is not complete fertilizer. Use only fully cold ash from natural untreated wood. Never use coal ash, charcoal briquettes, painted or pressure-treated lumber, plywood, fiberboard, plastic garbage, oil-soaked fuel, or wood of uncertain origin. Test first. If soil pH is already 7 or higher, keep ash away. Avoid blueberries and other acid-loving crops, young seedlings, recently limed beds, and potatoes susceptible to common scab because increasing pH can increase disease risk. Screen away large charcoal and every hidden ember. Follow the laboratory rate. Without a specific recommendation, 10 pounds per 100 square feet, about 4.5 kilograms per 9 and 3/10 square meters, is a yearly ceiling, never an automatic dose. Spread it thinly and evenly over moist soil. Rake it lightly and wait about 2 weeks before planting. Never leave piles. Wear gloves, eye protection, closed shoes, and a dust mask. And avoid windy days because alkaline dust irritates skin, eyes, and lungs. Do not mix ash directly with ammonium fertilizer, urea, or concentrated nitrogen materials. High pH can drive nitrogen away as ammonia. Never combine it in a container with vinegar, soluble eggshell calcium, fermented plant juice, or fish amino acid. The acid and alkaline materials neutralize each other and make the final dose unpredictable. Used after a test, ash may perform 2 jobs. Used from habit, it can push the soil beyond the range vegetables need. In the next half, we move from slow solid materials into 3 concentrated liquids. Number 3 is fermented plant juice, usually shortened to FPJ. It is made when sugar pulls liquid from young plant tissue by osmosis, while fermentation changes the mixture. Its composition depends completely on the plant, sugar proportion, temperature, and time, so present it as a low-dose fermented extract or biostimulant, not a complete fertilizer with a guaranteed nutrient analysis. Traditional Korean natural farming uses it as one tool, but tradition does not make every batch identical or promise doubled harvests. Collect vigorous young tips from healthy, correctly identified plants that have not received persistent herbicides or pesticides. Comfrey, nettle, purslane, and sweet potato shoots are possible examples. Never use poisonous, diseased, unknown, rotting, or roadside contaminated vegetation. Harvest early on a dry morning, shake off soil and insects. Traditional practice avoids vigorous washing because surface organisms participate in fermentation. Cut the material into pieces about 1 to 2 inches long without liquefying it. Weigh it, then add an equal weight of brown sugar or unrefined cane sugar. Some protocols use less sugar depending on plant moisture, but equal weight is the more reproducible household starting point. Massage gently until sugar touches the surfaces, then place the mixture in food-safe glass, ceramic, or plastic never-reactive metal. After settling, it should occupy about 2/3 of the container, leaving gas space, covered with breathable cloth or paper secured by an elastic band. Do not seal active fermentation. Keep it cool, shaded, and ventilated for approximately 3 to 7 days. Bubbles and liquid gathering below show activity, and the odor should be sweet, sour, and vegetal, never putrid. Strain the liquid and compost healthy solids, label the concentrate, protect it from sunlight, and use a cap that cannot trap dangerous pressure. Discard batches with rot, colored mold, or unusual swelling. For ordinary use, dilute 1 part FPJ in 500 parts water, about 7.5 milliliters or 1.5 teaspoons per American gallon. For seedlings, hot weather, or a first test, begin closer to 1 part in 800 or 1,000, roughly 4 to 5 milliliters per gallon. Apply to already moist soil or as a very light foliar mist in early morning or late afternoon, never under intense heat. Filter anything entering a sprayer. Test 1 or 2 plants and wait several days. At most, use it weekly while observing new growth. Leaf-based FPJ fits vegetative growth more logically than a specific calcium correction. It can complement compost or castings, but not replace a fertile base. Avoid spraying lettuce, kale, and other raw edible leaves close to harvest. Number 2 is fish amino acid, or FAA, a nitrogen tool. It ferments fresh raw fish waste with brown sugar and is traditionally used during vegetative growth. Use heads, skin, organs, bones, or small whole fish that are fresh, never cooked, salted, seasoned, or spoiled. Chop them to speed liquefaction. Weigh the fish and combine it with equal weight brown sugar, either mixed or layered. Place it in food-safe glass, ceramic or sturdy plastic, never metal, filling no more than 2/3. Finish with a firm sugar cap so no fish remains exposed. Cover with breathable fabric during the stage and store in a cool, dry, shaded place inaccessible to animals. Liquefaction begins within days, but maturation may require roughly 2 to 6 months. A mature batch is dark and viscous with a sweet, lightly fishy or soy sauce-like smell rather than putrefaction. Strain and label it. If you see maggots, colored mold, swelling, or smell decay, do not put it on food crops. FAA has no honest homemade NPK guarantee, but its main purpose is nitrogen and nitrogen-containing compounds. Dilute it 1 part in 1,000, 1 milliliter per liter, about 4 milliliters, slightly less than 1 teaspoon per American gallon. 5 gallons take about 19 milliliters, roughly 1 1/4 tablespoons. Never pour it on undiluted. Apply a light root zone drench over moist soil every 7 to 14 days during active leafy growth, always guided by response. It can benefit leafy vegetables and the early growth of tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, and cucumbers. Once flowers and fruit become the priority, reduce or stop it. Excess nitrogen produces dark, soft, leafy growth and can delay flowering or decrease fruiting. If your tomato towers over you but carries few blossoms, would you keep feeding nitrogen? That's exactly when more fertilizer can mean less food. Soil application is more prudent than spraying edible plant parts. Homemade FAA is not sterilized. As a conservative precaution for an animal-derived input, stop well before harvest, approximately 90 days when the edible portion stays above soil, and 120 days when it contacts soil. Short-cycle raw vegetables are better served by a processed, labeled commercial fish fertilizer when that interval is impossible. Store FAA away from food, children, and animals. Its odor can attract dogs, raccoons, rodents, and other visitors, so water it into the soil lightly. Never discharge concentrate near streams or drains because excess nitrogen and organic matter degrade water quality. Number 1 is water-soluble calcium, or WCA, made from eggshells and food-grade vinegar. This is the recipe most people misunderstand. Dry eggshell is approximately 95% calcium carbonate, not 95% elemental calcium. One average shell contains around 2 2/10 grams of calcium held in that mineral form, with only about 0.3% phosphorus and 0.3% magnesium. Roasting does not manufacture phosphorus. Large shell pieces can persist in soil for years. Grinding increases surface area, but weak acid extraction makes part of the calcium soluble much faster. Vinegar's acetic acid reacts with calcium carbonate to form soluble calcium acetate, carbon dioxide, and water. The escaping carbon dioxide creates the foam. The finished household concentrate is not laboratory pure calcium acetate. Residual acid and trace minerals can remain, which is why dilution is mandatory. Rinse the shells, remove as much inner membrane as practical, dry them completely, and break them into pieces near 1/4 inch, around 6 millimeters. You do not need baby powder fineness, which adds inhalation risk. Toast over low heat for roughly 45 minutes until dry and lightly golden, never black or charred. A low oven also works for uniform drying and light toasting. Cool fully, wear a dust mask if crushing finely, plus gloves and eye protection during the acid reaction. Use weak food grade vinegar. Traditional university guidance describes rice vinegar around 3% acetic acid. Ordinary white vinegar around 5% also reacts. Never substitute concentrated horticultural vinegar. Weigh 1 part toasted shell to 10 parts vinegar. A small batch uses 20 grams of shell and 200 grams of vinegar. Place vinegar in a large glass jar with abundant empty space, then add shells slowly because foam can rise quickly. Cover with breathable cloth secured by an elastic band. Never seal the jar while gas is forming. Pressure can break glass or throw acidic liquid. Keep it in a cool, dark, ventilated place for about 7 to 10 days. Watch the reaction instead of trusting only the calendar. If bubbles remain, allow another day or two. Completion is indicated mainly by the end of effervescence and absence of contamination, not by a required milky appearance. Strain into a clean labeled container and protect it from light, food, children, and animals. Discard it if mold, rot, contamination, or pressure develops. Never promise it will remain good for years. Now, the measurement that protects your plants, dilute WCA 1 part in 1,000. That means 1 milliliter per liter, about 4 milliliters or 3/4 of a teaspoon per American gallon. Half a gallon takes about 2 milliliters, roughly 1/3 teaspoon. 5 gallons take about 19 milliliters or 1 1/4 tablespoons. 10 gallons take about 38 milliliters or 2 1/2 tablespoons. An ounce per gallon is almost 8 times stronger than this guidance and should not be copied. Never experiment with 2, 3, or 4 ounces. Apply diluted WCA to moist soil as a light root zone drench when a soil test, crop history, or specific recommendation justifies calcium. The natural farming method often places it around flowering and fruiting, but that does not mean every plant needs biweekly calcium forever. For foliar use, mist lightly without runoff at dawn or after sunset. Test one plant first and understand that leaf calcium does not move efficiently into fruit. This matters most with blossom end rot, the dark sunken damage found on tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, squash, watermelons, and other fruiting crops. The damaged fruit is locally calcium deficient, but the soil may already contain plenty. Calcium travels with water from active roots. Drought followed by heavy watering, damaged roots, heat, rapid growth, or excessive nitrogen, magnesium, potassium, or sodium can keep enough calcium from reaching developing fruit. A foliar spray is not a guaranteed cure, and damaged fruit cannot heal. Protect the next fruits by maintaining even moisture, mulching, avoiding root injury, controlling excessive nitrogen, and correcting pH or calcium only according to testing. Never mix WCA concentrate with wood ash. Acid and alkali neutralize one another. Do not pour it into a worm bin. Worms can receive small amounts of pulverized shell as grit, not acidic concentrate. Calcium supports cell walls, membranes, young roots, and cellular signaling. Adequate nutrition can improve firmness in some fruits, but it does not guarantee sweeter flavor, universal storage life, or absorption of every other nutrient. Too much calcium can compete with magnesium and potassium. That completes the 7 tools, but choosing among them is the real skill. Leafy crops can begin with mature compost or castings. Carefully timed nitrogen may support their vegetative growth, though homemade animal inputs are awkward for short harvest cycles. Fruiting crops can use a fertile base, moderate FPJ or FAA early, then less nitrogen after flowering. WCA belongs only where calcium is justified. Root crops need mature material and restrained nitrogen, while wood ash does not belong with scab-sensitive potatoes. Brassicas value base fertility and early nitrogen, but excess near head formation can delay maturity or make tissue overly tender. Apply every diluted liquid to moist soil. Prepare only what you will use that day. Label every container and leave at least 7 days between different liquids during initial testing. Never store them in drink bottles. No fertilizer repairs waterlogged soil, drought, root damage, extreme pH disease, or insufficient light. More fertilizer never automatically means more production. Which of these 7 will you test first? And what evidence tells you your plants need it? Make one change. Leave an untreated comparison. Record the amount and date, then watch the new growth. That is how a so-called magic recipe becomes reliable gardening. The success is not hidden in compost, worms, grass, ash, leaves, fish, or eggshells. It is in choosing the right tool, measuring it carefully, and refusing to feed a problem you have not identified. Thanks.